Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do another entry here. This one yet again based on one of your new suggestions. This one, interestingly enough, one that I had already saved a couple of weeks back, just when I came across it nonchalantly during another search involving cryptids. And I thought to myself, I'm going to definitely talk about this one. So interesting stuff when it comes to someone else, just rightfully so, suggesting it. The big problem, though, with this suggestion is that it has huge red flags when it comes to its authenticity. Definitely lots of potential when it comes to hoaxes associated with it. I'll include all that information below, but as always, I just give everything as far as the information up front, and it's up for yourselves to decide afterward. But you're looking at a representation of that fateful day. This has a very interesting name too as far as this cryptid. It's known as the Giant of Kandahar. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the fascinating information associated with the supposed brief and true encounter. So here's essentially what happened. You have to go back to 2002 to essentially find the time period for this. No known like exact date, not even like an exact location per se. Closest you could get to is you would have to go to Afghanistan, and then within it, you would have to go even out of, let's say, that area over to the Kandahar mountains and caves, and that's essentially where you'll find this encounter. So very hard to be able to state exactly where this occurred. That area, as you're looking at it now, is so remote, and obviously it has so much fields just left out there in the open, like as far as the eye can see, where it's just nothing but sand and dirt and then caves. It's almost like Tatooine out there. So as far as this encounter happening, again, it's a little bit suspect. But here's essentially what occurred. On that fateful day, that's when there was a special ops task force who was sent out to try to see what happened to yet another branch of the military, a U.S. Army squad, that went missing. No known date on when that squad went missing, not even the location or who was involved. But yes, they went out at least to try to find out what occurred, and eventually their trail took them along what was described as a mountainous trail. It looked almost like warm, like it wasn't natural, but more along the lines of someone or something just using it for a long period of time. And eventually it led to the entrance of a large cave. And then as these U.S. military personnel were going towards that clearing and they were about to enter it, that's when all of a sudden, almost like on a sixth sense, this creature came out. Now let's talk about this Giant of Kandahar right here and then. It was apparently a 12 to 15 foot tall humanoid-like figure that was red-headed, may have had full body of hair, may have not, or at least looked like it was disheveled, like in other words, a lifetime of just hair growing outwards, and then had 6-digit hands, and it also had equipment with it in the form of a giant sphere. So if you're talking about something that is 12 to 15 feet tall, obviously it's way bigger than any human. You could just imagine like the spear also proportionately being much larger than a human would normally carry. And it immediately just attacked. Like if this caveman or whatever it was, this giant man just immediately went on the defensive. It started attacking the squad. It even took that giant spear and then impaled one of the personnel there, a guy by the name of Dan, and then tried to attack the rest of them. But as it turns out, because everyone there was obviously armed to the teeth, ready to face any type of encounter, even something like this. I mean, who would expect a giant man to come out of this type of cave? They basically mowed him down. They had fully automatic M4 carbines. They had semi-automatic recon carbines. They had a M107 Barrett anti-material rifles and so on. So some of you that are in the military, I know exactly what I'm talking about. If you know the firepower associated with these items, then you can see how this would quickly take care of that type of situation. Although it took apparently about 30 seconds of this crew just shooting it down to be able to finally take it down, which is testament to the force and the nature associated with this Giant of Kandahar. So what did he do next? You're wondering, like, what happened to this body? Obviously, this is an incredible find. This would definitely make the century when it comes this too. Something else out there in this world that has never been seen before. Well, it was called in by these soldiers, and then the creature's body was eventually airlifted by helicopter back to the squad's base. And then when that happened, it was loaded onto another aircraft, and then it was gone, never ever seen again. This special ops task force saw all of this happen, and they probably knew immediately what was going to happen next, and that's because they were eventually told to sign some non-disclosure paperwork to let them know, hey, don't talk about one word about this encounter, and then that everyone has to remain silent, and then that way none of this encounter could essentially leak out and then cause havoc later on. So those guys were made to do so. And that's why it remained a big secret, at least to this day. If you're wondering like how people are then knowing about this specific event, it turns out that there was a guy by the name of Stephen Quayle who got on the show Coast to Coast. You know that show, right? The one that I love and all of you love as well. He was there talking about this experience. Apparently others had mentioned to him about what had occurred, and he was on the show talking about it afterwards. That's essentially how we know about this Giant of Kandahar, what the encounter was, and then essentially what happened to it. Who knows where this thing was then taken elsewhere, maybe to be examined, never to be seen again. Maybe it's in Area 51, who knows? But that's at least everything that sums up this specific encounter. Now, let's talk about those red flags that I was mentioning earlier. When you're dealing with something involving the U.S. Army, or in this case, Afghanistan, the Special Ops Task Force, missing soldiers that I was mentioning at the very beginning of the video, and then these set of soldiers that went to look for them and then came across this creature, there's obviously like a whole bunch of stuff that would have to click into place for nobody to have leaked anything associated with this. I mean, there's just too many witnesses, too many people, where it would have been so easy for something like this to have just gone viral. And even if this happened in 2002, the internet, even in its infancy, was still around. Like there would have been a situation where a photo would have leaked, or maybe an email showing documents associated with the encounter. It would have leaked too. When you're dealing like with the army and so on, like this is the kind of stuff where too many people are involved, and it's just logistically, at least in my mind, the way it makes sense, something would have come out. The fact that it never has, like there hasn't been any evidence associated with this, then it leads a little bit suspect. Plus, where are the names? Names with regards to that missing squad, names with regards to the Rangers force that found this creature. What about the others that were transporting it? Those are other witnesses as well. What about the location? Where would it have been taken? What about the time period? All that stuff is missing, almost suspiciously missing, just enough to not be able to find the right link to show whether this is truly 100% real or a hoax. And again, that's where I think that comes into play. So in my mind, at least, the chances of this being real, especially with so many people involved, the military involved, it's slim to none. But that's just my thoughts. But I'd love to hear what your comments are with regards to it too. Who knows? Maybe I'm 100% completely wrong. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Kandahar is so open, so vast. The area there, especially around Afghanistan, just has so many miles of untold miles of just desert. No chance, in other words, of people coming across certain areas of land for who knows how many centuries. You could have something like this basically living in those mountains, maybe another clan of sorts, and that could make sense too. So, and who knows, maybe we'll see evidence afterward. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If anybody has any more info, anything else I might have missed, then please post those comments below. Maybe somebody else heard that information there on Coast to Coast and has more local info. Love to hear what those comments are. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.